Good morning, afternoon, evening, and night, and early morning to everyone. I did see in the participant list a few friends and partners from around the world, so great to see you here. A few words about NanoLock. We're established in 2017. We have offices in Israel, Japan, and the US, and we have customers both in the US, Europe, Netherlands, France, another country who speaks Spanish in Europe. We have a very strong portfolio, and we've been recognized for our innovation in the last, almost since inception. Last year, we won Company of the Year in Barcelona, 2019, and so on and so forth. So what we do and the innovative approach we have taken was recognized throughout the world. Basically, the major target or the major vertical that we're working in is infrastructure with a very powerful or very meaningful focus on smart meters, data concentrators, industrial electricity, water, and so on and so forth. These markets are under attack, whether for cyber reasons or state-level attacks, but also for fraudulent and theft throughout the years, starting with attacks that occurred in Malta, Puerto Rico, but it got closer to Europe, and of course, numerous attacks in the US. The last few weeks have been very interesting because there were also attacks on the infrastructure in Israel, retaliation by Israel against Iran, and so on and so forth. The attacks here didn't happen, or did not take place on the smart meters. They were in the industrial control system, the RTUs, and the infrastructure. However, they act very similarly. And what is common to many of the attacks that it was carried out by a combination of outsiders, classic hackers, insiders, technicians, or unhappy employees with credentials, or supply chain actors. There are numerous examples for each and every one of these. Insiders, there were attacks starting from Facebook to Tesla and others, where you have either an unhappy employee or a converted employee or technician or supply chain manufacturer or partner, where he's either motivated by financial reasons, personal issues, to use these credentials to become an adversary. Supply chain, or in other words, the Chinese threat, poses an issue where you have critical components manufactured offshore, and it was announced that many of the manufacturing is going inshore. We are working with some customers who said, our business is happening, the manufacturing is happening outside of our country. We want to make sure that, number one, nobody's putting any malware or Trojan horse inside. And if it does, please prevent it for us and inform us about such a thing. So you have the classic hackers, the insiders, and the supply chain. And if you're trying to think, you have to get protected from all of them. The twist about COVID is that, in other words, COVID created chaos. And chaos is the pet bed for a lot of the attacks. And we see a lot of rises on attacks and manipulation, both for fraudulent reasons, but also for state level, because, yes, people are at home, devices and infrastructure is less taken care of, but also it's a chaotic environment, and that will continue. And through chaos, hackers thrive. The connected infrastructure that we're living in causes all of those threats, from the cameras, the campuses, the smart manufacturing, smart water utilities, smart energy utilities. Once you have data in, because the board is becoming connected, you have data out. Once you have data in, the data can be, or the code in could be legit and fine, but it could be manipulative. And slightly different from the previous speakers, we assume that the device itself will and is the attack vector. So we're not trying to protect the network, although it's a very important thing, and CyberX are doing phenomenal work in that. We're not trying to protect the organization from the devices necessarily. We're trying to protect against manipulation of the devices, because in many cases, one can find that if this is done by an insider or supply chain, it goes way beyond or below the threshold that an anomaly detection or other means will detect. So if things are done in a sophisticated way, in a smart way, and in many cases in a simple way, many of the current solutions will not capture or will be challenged with that. And this is why the approach, in many cases, we're seeing companies taking the network approach and asking us to come, because the attack vectors are now both from the network, but also from the device, from people that they simply cannot prevent or control their behavior. The infrastructure is becoming more and more vulnerable, with a lot of motivation for people to harm the infrastructure. NanoLock have come with a powerful protection and a quick recovery methodology where we prevent on a device level. We have a technology that we'll speak about in a second, but we prevent fraud on those devices, meaning somebody manipulating with the way the devices work. And if you have, for example, a meter that reads a number and inside it manipulates that and changes the number, you have a very smart, sophisticated fraud that can be used. This is definitely what happened in Puerto Rico. This is happening quite often in Brazil and in South America. So you have fraud, you have local damage and state-level attacks. We protect from software bugs, but even unfamiliar vulnerabilities. It's very good to fight the war that just ended, but hackers are definitely getting smarter. They're learning breeds, and you have quite a lot of attacks that were never discovered or will be evolving and so on and so forth. So we need to be protected against also unfamiliar vulnerabilities, but also from software bugs, because apparently we're not perfect in the way we write the code and write all the protections, so there are always holes. We secure and validate and manage over-the-air updates. This is a new methodology. Instead of sending somebody with a USB or a disk to the field, you send updates over the air. When you have billions and billions of devices, over the air is becoming more and more common. And again, you're sending something in the air, in the clear, you have to protect it. We provide real-time status alerts and forensic data. So it's not that we're only defending and preventing the attack, we're informing the owner of the devices that we've prevented the attack, the nature of the attacks, and what was the adversary trying to do through our device-level forensic data. And lastly, the way that we protect enables the customer a quick recovery, the classic restart. So we prevent any catastrophic change or any catastrophic which is irreversible to the device. So even in the catastrophic event that somebody has been able to put a code, we make sure that the restart will take everything away. We, as I said, provide both the protection and the visibility to the edge devices, the alerts, and so on and so forth. We have customers that vary from the end industrial company itself or the utility. We have utilities that we work with, of course, in Israel, but also in Europe, Asia, with a very strong focus on Spain, on Japan, and in the US, we just signed up a new utility. But also, we work with large service providers. I cannot share all the names. One of them is KPN in the Netherlands. Another one is a telco, large telco in Japan, or large telco in Singapore. So these are large service providers who are providing this wealth of data and wealth of services to their customers. COVID created a scenario or a demand for those devices, for those service providers to enhance their businesses and provide those feature sets of protecting the assets in a much more critical manner. We've brought to the market a clear value that starts with savings. We're reducing manufacturing and support costs by making sure that devices does not require sending an engineer to repair them. We prevent theft, which is a direct saving. The average cost of breaching a smart meter is about, I think, $40,000 for the first 5 years of the device, including sending a technician. We eliminate the hacking and the PEX cycle. On the safety side, we provide the power grid protection. We block the state-level attacks, and we prevent malicious takeovers and service interruptions, which are critical both in terms of saving, but also from safety perspective. And we're providing visibility and enforced install base through the over-the-air, reliable real-time detection, and the unique forensic data implies the fact that we provide our customers full control over their devices. One of the interesting case studies is from recent weeks is from a European power grid, which asks us both to protect his new devices as well as his legacy devices. The attack vectors varied from a state-level attacks, but also what they called an organized crime going and manipulating the device. And the case study indicated that we're providing all of the values that we spoke about before. And I'm bringing this because the utilities are becoming a dramatic attack vector. It happened in Israel, it happened in Ukraine, because this is a perfect example of where you can have both a state-level attack on one side, as well as a fraud or fraudulent attack on the other side. You have a very long supply chain. You have a variety of employees with different credentials. So although this is very critical, it generates or opens up a wealth of attack vectors to adversaries. Lastly, we introduced a very interesting approach into the market. Although we are protecting the devices, which usually use an OPEX, CAPEX approach, where you buy the device, you buy an extra protection, the value that we had brought to the end customer, the utilities, had brought us to offer an OPEX kind of an approach where you pay for the feature set and the services and the features rather than for the deployment in the inside the device or the cost of the device itself. And that had brought us and our customers an ability to, for us, good way to monetize, but also the utilities were struggling with huge investments to be able to more leisurely or more relaxedly deploy both the cyber protection that we're offering. And we still see, and I'm relating that or connecting that also to the COVID, where the financial crisis requires different thinking. So utilities that never thought of this kind of an approach of connecting with a technology startup for a few years and thinking in an OPEX model are now open for that. And we see that as a dramatic change in the last few months. With that, I would like to thank you for taking the time and listen to me.